Morning, everyone. The hour of 10:30 or half hour of 10:30 is upon us. Call the meeting of the Development Committee of DuPage County of April 2nd to order. Roll call.
Member Krajewski. Member Chaplin. Here. Member Guston. Here. Member Ozog. Here. Member Rutledge. Here. Chair Fornatori.
Here. And we have a quorum. I have nothing under Chairman's remarks. Public comment before we get into the one person who's here. Just wanted to make note that we did have a significant number of electronic public comments relating to something not on today's agenda, but was on the agenda a couple of weeks ago. So we just want to make that part of the record. Moving on to public comment. We have public comment is an opportunity for people to come and not give new testimony, but tell us how they feel about an item on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. And we have Councilor Roth. You are here on item 6F. Mike, go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Michael Roth. I'm an attorney for petitioner on item 6F, which is the Overdale conditional use. You've read the report, I'm sure, and you saw that at the ZBA there was a vote of 5-2 to deny the request for the conditional use with some variances. I understand that I'm not here to give testimony. I would ask, though, that you consider at least that the grounds for the rejection were really a concern by the ZBA members to concerning a wood pile. The wood pile was up against the property line. Basically, what this request is it's for a conditional use to have a landscape supply, industrial use, without an office, basically to allow some outdoor storage. The office work at this Overdale facility is done in Burr Ridge, and this is where the landscape material is moved. What the concern was by the ZBA, I think if you've read the report, you see that there's a wood pile, and being up against the property line, there was concern that it could be a fire hazard. There's never been a fire problem there, but that was the consideration by the ZBA members. What we had proposed at that hearing was to revise our site plan to eliminate that setback deviation request and to have the wood pile meet the setback requirement of 20 feet. The ZBA members said, no, you can't be horse trading with us. At the ZBA hearing, take it to the development committee. So we submitted a revised site plan to show that setback, but I know it's not before you. I would ask you either to consider that and hopefully with that change approve the request, or if you don't want to do that, I would ask you respectfully to send it back to the ZBA so that we could have a revised site plan that addressed the concerns by the ZBA members reconsidered. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. On to approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 19th.
Second.
Motion and second. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Moving on to regulatory services, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 6A 24-1110 ZSE 24-1 for the Naperville Country Club to approve a special event action item for the fireworks display schedule for June 30th. The motion in a second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 13-24 zoning 2378 Isle to approve it essentially in accordance with the proposed revised site plans to allow a proposed garage to an existing home instead of detached. There's a motion in a second. Any additions, corrections, or comments? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 14-24 zoning 2395 Dr. Smoke. This is a ZHO recommendation to deny a conditional use to allow a restaurant and tavern in a B1 local business district in a variation to reduce the required amount of parking spaces from 15 to 11. We take our motions in the affirmative. Is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second. There's a motion and a second to approve it. Paul, can you give us a little bit of history or background on why this was denied?
So this property owner is looking to have 6 gaming devices on his property. In order to have 6 gaming devices, under the state gaming laws, you got to have a pour license from your local jurisdiction. In order to get a pour license in DuPage County, you have to have a restaurant type use. So this petitioner is asking for a Class B restaurant in a B1 zoning district. That requires a conditional use in a B1 zoning district. It also requires a minimum of 15 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. Not only do they not have 15 parking spaces, they don't have 5 parking spaces, which we require for a typical retail establishment. They're actually parking in the street, and they're parking in a public right-of-way alleyway to the, I think, south of the property. Essentially, the petitioner presented a plan saying, this is what the state requires me to do, so I asked for this. Really didn't put any case on other than the fact that he needs a pour license. In order to get the pour license, he needs this zoning relief. So he wasn't able to establish any demonstrable hardship, unique circumstance, or practical difficulty with the property, other than he wanted it so he could make some money. And that's why the ZBA denied it.
If my memory serves me, did we have something like this similar, or was this just you and I talking about this?
So at one of the development committee meetings, there was in new business a discussion of another facility that is as of right zoned B2 and meets all the requirements. And there were some concerns about that facility being operable in unincorporated DuPage. This is different than that.
Okay.
This is a piece of property in unincorporated Lombard zoned B1.
Okay, any questions of Paul before we go on? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Not specifically on this item, but I guess I'm looking for a little backstory on why you have to have a restaurant in order to have video gaming or some kind of a food or
It's a state
beverage.
requirement. You have to have
Thank you.
a
Okay.
liquor license essentially.
So just to be clear, as it relates to this property, and the same information will come out, as it relates to this property, the state gaming board requires you to have a POUR, P-O-U-R license. The only POUR license in DuPage County, from your local jurisdiction, the only POUR license in DuPage County is a restaurant/tavern license. And as a restaurant/tavern license, when you correlate that with the zoning code requires that restaurants be located in a B2 zoning district to be as of right and have a certain number of parking spaces associated with that. If you're located in a B1 zoning district, you got to get a conditional use, and that's what we see here. But the really prevailing issue here is that in order to have up to six gaming licenses, the state requires that you have a license to pour liquor.
Mary tried to get the legislature to change that so she could put video poker in her basement. It didn't work. They didn't have the juice.
I really wish you hadn't shared that.
Quick question, as we allow expanded parking, which is not permeable, right? Obviously, there's gonna be water runoff. Do we do any kind of evaluation as to water runoff, wetlands? There's some areas that are pretty specific to the tendency of retaining a lot of water, either off that site that we're allowing the additional parking, right, into other neighbors' lots. Do we have some kind of matrix where we watch that stuff and we take that into consideration, or we don't have a matrix like that?
So we do, as it relates to this zoning case, and by inference to perhaps other things that are of topic here. When we send out notice that someone's asking for zoning relief, in this case, this petitioner on Route 38, we send it to all of the disciplines that would ultimately review the building permit: stormwater, drainage, public works, health, building and zoning. And as part of that review, the stormwater department, drainage department is going to review any additional impervious areas on a property and make sure it complies with the county stormwater ordinance, both in terms of potentially needing detention or needing best management practices, BMPs. There's a threshold for detention. That's anything that disturbs more than 25,000 square feet of net new impervious area. As it relates to best management practices, that threshold is 2,500 square feet. So what the stormwater department is looking for with these projects is if you disturb more than 25,000 square feet, you have to provide detention. But if you're less than 25,000 square feet, no new detention is required. but you may be required to do a best management practice, and that is to try and create some sort of engineering plan that retains as much water on the property as possible. You accomplish that by rain gardens, French drains, things like that. But those are all considered as part of any development, whether it's for a building permit or whether it's for zoning entitlement like this one that we're looking at today.
And this one that we're talking about though is just the lot itself and looking at the plan of survey and the amount of parking stalls. It's very, very tight, like.
These folks were not providing any new parking. And in fact, the parking that they were providing was parking on the street and in the public right of way, which doesn't count for legal parking requirements.
Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you. Fair to say this was all explained to the petitioner early on.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, so we have a denial by the ZHO. We have a motion to approve it. A aye vote would be overturning the zoning hearing officer's decision. A no vote would be to sustain it. Roll call, please.
Member Rutledge?
No.
Member Guston?
No.
Member Chaplin? No. Member Ozog?
No.
Chair Tornatori?
No, and the motion fails. On item 6D, I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 15-24 zoning 2396. Benjamin Safety, the zoning board of appeals recommendation to approve a variation to reduce the minimum interior side yard setback from 40 feet to 20 feet for construction of
So
two
moved.
proposed
Second.
parking lots. There's a motion in a second. Any questions or comments or? Yes, Paul.
I just have one comment. As part of this petition, I want the board to recognize that one of the conditions that the developer agreed to put on this zoning relief was to provide a pedestrian pathway easement along the front of their property along Route 83. The county's working on a project to bring more pedestrian pathways in the Route 83 91st Street corridor. And as part of that, the petitioner has agreed to at least provide an easement for future pedestrian pathway to connect to other pathways that the county is pursuing right now in this area. I just wanted to point that out for the board.
Which is consistent with our Route 83 plan that we've.
Yes, sir.
For a while. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve this. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 16-24 zoning 24-1. This is a zoning hearing officer's recommendation to bifurcate a variation to reduce the front yard setback from 7 feet to 40 feet. 7 feet from the required 40 feet to approximately 3 inches. The CHO recommended to approve that. The zoning hearing officer in his bifurcation recommended to deny a variation to allow a barbed wire fence on the subject property. So let's take the first item first, which is the variation to reduce the front yard setback for a new 7-foot fence from 40 feet to approximately 3. That's supposed to be 3 inches.
3 inches.
3 inches. Okay. So we have a motion to approve that item that was approved by the zoning hearing officer. Someone? Anyone?
So moved. So moved. Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions regarding this article? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to the second part, which is the denial of the variation to allow a barbed wire fence. It was denied. All of my recalling what I read, essentially because it was a barbed wire fence.
Barbed wire fence. It's located adjacent to residential properties. The county only allows barbed wire industrial, where you have industrial next to industrial. We've got too many residential next to this. I will tell you anecdotally that it is likely that sometime this week, the petitioner will remove that request for the barbed wire. I still think the board needs to act on it today, but when it comes to county board, you will probably just see the request for variation of the setback and the barbed wire will be removed.
So if that matter what is denied, it's because it's bifurcated. We're dealing with these essentially separate items. Okay. All right. So we have a recommendation to deny. I'll entertain a motion to approve that variation. The second. It's a motion, a second to approve it. Again, a A no vote would be consistent with the zoning hearing officer's recommendation. Roll call, please.
Member Guston,
No.
member Chaplin. No. Member Ozog.
No.
Member Rutledge,
No.
Chair Tornatori.
No. And the motion fails. We on item 6F, I will entertain a motion to approve DCO 17-24 zoning 24-5 Overdale Inc. This is the zoning board of appeals recommendation to deny a conditional use for open storage of equipment storage containers and landscape materials. An exception variation to reduce the south front yard setback from 40 feet to 2 feet. An exception or variation to reduce the east setback from 20 feet, approximately 1.5 foot. An exception or variation to reduce the west interior side yard setback from the required 20 feet to approximately 2 feet. And an exception variation to reduce north or rear yard setback from the required 20 feet to approximately 0 feet. This was the zoning board of appeals vote to deny 5-2. I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved. Second.
The motion and a second. Do we have any comments or questions regarding this matter? Its entirety. Yeah, remember I was like.
I would
All right,
like
sure, go ahead.
to, I would like to, I guess, amend the motion to send it back to ZBA for modified information that the petitioner has provided today so that they can look at the change and vote on that and then bring it back to us.
Okay, if you would hold off on the motion to amend until we could discuss it, and then we'll ask for some direction and if that's acceptable to the petitioner, and then we'll do a motion. If that's it to bring it.
Pardon.
Rosa.
I was going to suggest the same thing, and it sounds like they're definitely making a big effort to become close to compliance.
Okay, I understand there's gonna be a new site plan, and if we're gonna be consistent with something that we did a few weeks back.
Yep.
That's pretty much a substantial change, and we should probably, I would think, remand it back to ZBA to
Agreed.
do what we've been doing, so there's no objection from the petitioner for that. Okay, Counselor.
Thank you.
All right, so is there a motion to remand this back to the ZBA?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve DCO 18-24 zoning 24-8 Castillo. Zoning hearing officer's recommendation to approve a conditional use to allow an existing deck and pool to remain less than 30 feet on the corner side setback. Motion and a second. Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Do we have any old business? Any new business? Nothing? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Stay.